The reheating risk. You reheat your leftovers thinking you're saving time and money. But what happens at the molecular level when you reheat certain foods is concerning. Some leftovers, when reheated, create toxic compounds. Others allow dangerous bacteria to regrow. Some oxidize in ways that increase inflammation and cellular damage. Your doctor doesn't talk about this. Most people don't know. But the research is clear. Reheating certain foods the wrong way can significantly damage your health. In the next 8 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly which 5 foods are problematic, what happens when you reheat them, and most importantly, how to safely reheat them or avoid reheating entirely. This isn't fear-mongering. This is what the research actually shows. The bacteria trap. Let's start with rice. Reheated rice is deceptively dangerous. Here's what happens. When you cook rice, you kill most bacteria. But one bacterium survives, Bacillus cereus. This is a spore-forming bacterium that survives high heat. After cooking, if rice sits at room temperature for more than 2 hours, those Bacillus cereus spores germinate. They multiply rapidly. By the time you reheat the rice, even to steaming hot, the bacteria produce toxins, specifically emetic toxin and enterotoxin. These toxins cause food poisoning, severe nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain. A 2013 study in foodborne pathogens and disease tracked rice food poisoning incidents. Finding: improper rice storage. Plus reheating caused 23% of rice-related food poisoning cases. Here's the critical part. Reheating doesn't destroy these toxins. Even if you heat rice to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, recommended safe temperature, the bacterial toxins remain. The damage is already done. How to prevent this? Store rice in the refrigerator immediately after cooking, within 2 hours max. Use within 24 hours. Don't reheat rice multiple times. If you do reheat, heat thoroughly, but understand the toxin may still be present. Safest option: eat rice fresh or avoid reheating altogether. Make fresh rice when needed. The convenience of reheated rice isn't worth the food poisoning risk. Carcinogenic compound formation. Now let's talk about reheated chicken and meat. When you initially cook meat at high temperatures, amino acids, protein building blocks, react with sugars in a process called the Maillard reaction. This creates flavor, but also creates compounds called heterocyclic amines, HCAs. HCAs are concerning because they're shown in lab studies to damage DNA and increase cancer risk in animal models. Here's what happens when you reheat meat. If you reheat meat using high heat, microwave at high power, oven at high temperature, you're creating additional HCAs on top of what was already formed during initial cooking. You're essentially doubling your HCA exposure. A 2018 study in Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers and Prevention analyzed cooking and reheating patterns. Finding: people who regularly reheated meat at high temperatures had 1.5x higher risk of certain cancers, specifically colorectal and prostate. But, and this is important, the risk was associated with frequency. One reheated chicken meal isn't dangerous. Regular repeated reheating is where the risk accumulates. Additionally, the risk was highest when meat was charred or reheated at very high temperatures, above 350 degrees Fahrenheit. How to reduce risk? Reheat meat slowly at low temperature, 250, 300 degrees, not high heat. Use a water bath or stovetop instead of microwave high power. Don't char or brown meat during reheating. Limit reheating frequency. Don't make reheated meat a daily habit. Add antioxidant-rich foods, vegetables, herbs during reheating. They reduce HCA formation. Safest option: when possible, eat meat fresh. If reheating, do it slowly at low temperature. The inflammatory cascade. Oils and fats are problematic when reheated because they oxidize. When you cook with oil once, it oxidizes somewhat. When you reheat that oil, especially at high temperatures, it oxidizes dramatically. Oxidized oils create free radicals and oxidative compounds like lipid peroxides. These compounds trigger inflammation in your body. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of almost all disease. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. A 2017 study in Free Radical Biology and Medicine measured oxidative compounds in reheated oils. Finding: oils reheated to 350 degrees plus created 3.5x more oxidative compounds compared to fresh oil. When you consume oxidized oil, your body fights it as a foreign invader, mounting an inflammatory response. Over time, this chronic inflammation damages your cells. Additionally, certain oils, particularly seed oils like canola, soybean, are more prone to oxidative damage when reheated. How to prevent this? Don't reuse cooking oil. Use fresh oil each time. If reheating food cooked in oil, reheat at low temperature, avoid high heat. Use stable oils, olive oil, coconut oil, instead of seed oils. Store oils in cool, dark places. Light and heat cause oxidation. Discard oil that looks dark or smells rancid. Safest option: use fresh oil each time you cook. Don't reheat foods fried in seed oils. Clostridium, Botulinum risk. Potatoes and leafy greens, spinach, kale, cooked and then reheated pose a specific risk: Clostridium botulinum. This bacterium produces botulinum toxin, one of the most toxic substances known. Here's the scenario that's dangerous. You cook potatoes or greens and leave them at room temperature. The anaerobic, oxygen-free environment inside the cooked food allows Clostridium botulinum spores to germinate. The bacterium produces toxin. Even if you reheat, killing the bacteria, the toxin remains and causes botulism, a serious, potentially fatal condition. This is rare but well documented. The CDC has specific warnings about this. A 2015 analysis in Morbidity and Mortality Weekly report identified 23 botulism cases over 10 years linked to improperly stored and reheated cooked potatoes and vegetables. Symptoms: weakness, paralysis, respiratory failure. Serious stuff. Why this happens? Cooked potatoes create an anaerobic, no oxygen environment. Clostridium botulinum thrives in anaerobic environments with low acid and low salt. This is the perfect breeding ground. How to prevent this? Refrigerate potatoes and cooked vegetables immediately, within 2 hours. Use within 3-4 days. Store in open containers. Allow oxygen exposure rather than sealed containers. Reheat to steaming hot, 145°F+ for 15+ seconds. Don't store in aluminum foil. Creates anaerobic environment. Use open containers or breathable bags. Critical note: even proper reheating kills bacteria, but not the toxin. Prevention, proper storage, is key. The nutrient destruction. Finally, mushrooms have a unique problem when reheated. Mushrooms are high in choline, an important nutrient for brain health. But choline is heat sensitive. When you cook mushrooms, some choline is destroyed. When you reheat them, additional choline is destroyed. A 2016 study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry measured choline content in reheated versus fresh mushrooms. Finding: reheated mushrooms lost 50 to 70% of their choline content. Additionally, reheated mushrooms can develop compounds that increase inflammation, similar to oxidized oils. But here's the bigger issue. Mushrooms left at room temperature can develop spoilage bacteria and fungal toxins. If you reheat them, you kill the bacteria, but the toxins may remain, similar to the Clostridium issue. How to prevent this? Eat mushrooms fresh when possible. If storing cooked mushrooms, refrigerate immediately. Use within 2 to 3 days. Reheat gently, low temperature, to avoid additional nutrient loss. Don't leave cooked mushrooms at room temperature. Safest option: eat mushrooms fresh. If reheating, do so gently and within 2 or 3 days of cooking. How to safely handle leftovers? So how do you actually handle leftovers safely? Safe reheating protocol. Rule 1. Storage. Refrigerate within 2 hours of cooking. Within 1 hour if temperature 90 degrees occurs. Store in shallow containers. Cools faster. Reduces bacteria regrowth window. Use within 3 and 9 days maximum. Rule 2. Reheating temperature. Heat to 165 degrees. Don't set any fried but a minimum for food safety. Use low to medium heat, slow reheating. Avoid microwave high power. Creates hotspots and additional compound formation. Stovetop or oven at low-medium temperature is safest. Rule 3. Reheating frequency. Don't reheat the same food multiple times. Reheat only what you'll eat that meal. Don't keep cycling food between room temperature and refrigerator. Rule 4. Oil handling. Use fresh oil when cooking. Don't reuse cooking oil. When reheating oil-based foods, use low temperature. Rule 5. High-risk foods. Rice, potatoes, mushrooms, leafy greens. Extra caution with storage. Meat. Reheat slowly, not at high temperature. Avoid reheating these foods if stored 24 hours. The safest approach. If you're concerned about reheated food safety, The simplest answer is cook fresh food when possible, or eat leftovers cold, as salads, cold chicken, etc. Cold leftovers avoid all reheating risks. Chicken salad, cold rice salad, vegetable medleys. These are all safe and delicious. Empowerment through knowledge. Here's what I want you to understand. Reheating food isn't inherently dangerous, but reheating certain foods the wrong way creates real health risks. The good news? These risks are entirely preventable through proper storage and reheating techniques. You don't need to be afraid of leftovers. You just need to be smart about them. Store properly. Reheat carefully. When in doubt, eat fresh. Your body will thank you.